Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, her website, taxpayer.com. Welcome back to the show, Kris.
Thank you so much.
Well, they ask a charity, which, by the way, had no experience in doling out cash, to run a nearly $1 billion program in Ottawa. It turns out we employed the daughter of the finance minister. He seems to have forgotten about that. He forgot about a trip that must have cost $91,000 and paid back a bit of it, but had to pay back the rest. Is Bill Morneau really the guy who should be in charge of our country's finances if he can't remember taking a $91,000 trip, or a number of trips actually, with his family?
Especially when it comes down to a charity or a group that the government has recently given a big chunk of taxpayers' money to, as both payment and to hand out. This isn't accountable. This needs to be
that
very
also
clear.
Employed the mother of the Prime Minister and his brother.
And his wife,
and
some
wife,
extent,
yes.
Because she was paid for speaking. And we know that even the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau himself, has spoken at many WE events. We don't know if he's ever been paid anything for it, but the connections here can't get any cozier. And taxpayers should be concerned about this because our money is involved and our system of governance is involved. So, okay, I think most people can agree that Bill Morneau doesn't need money being paid by we. He himself is a very rich man. His family is incredibly wealthy. He's got lots of cash. But it also needs to appear to be accountable and transparent and squeaky clean. And when the average Canadian turns on the news and hears that our finance minister can't quite remember whether or not he paid for a $40,000 vacation or the charity to which the government of Canada, of which he is the finance minister, gave money to, if they paid for it. That's not okay. That is fundamentally not okay. So we need very clear answers coming out of Ottawa. We're looking forward to the appearance by Justin Trudeau at the committee. We don't know when exactly that's going to be happening, but we're glad he's agreed to appear. We hope to actually see it happen.
Also, I'm just hearing there's a wave of layoffs going through Canadian broadcast outlets today, both radio and TV. Whatever happened to that $600 million Justin handed out? I should say the Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, the honorable member, handed out to the major media companies. What did they do with that money?
That's a great question. So, as we know, some media companies got it, some media companies didn't. And this is why at the Taxpayers Federation we said, you know what, we shouldn't be funding private media, and we should also be taking a very close look at the money that we do give out to even the CBC. They get more than $1 billion per year, and this is what happens year in and year out. No matter if taxpayers give money to broadcasters or not, we'll see these painful layoffs happening. And so, as a broadcaster, I was in the industry for years. It's tough. I've been on that end of the stick. I know what that feels like to get laid off or to lose your media job. Things are changing a lot within the media landscape. You and I are talking on this excellent podcast, whereas maybe about 15 years ago, we might have been in the same big mainstream radio newsroom together. So it changes a lot. We're always concerned, though, when taxpayers' money is being spent on it, because it never seems to satisfy anybody. We still see people getting laid off. We still see stations getting shuttered, and yet taxpayers' money is still being spent. So that's one of the main reasons why we said it shouldn't happen in the first place.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Kris, some of the pubs and restaurants I've gone to have new serving staff and they're shorthanded. They can't get the old people back because they're still busy, I guess, sitting on the beach, drumming drums and hanging out with their friends rather than working. Does there have to be limits on who is eligible for the CERB, the Canadian Relief Effort for COVID, and also how long you can get it, and should you be able to get it if someone has offered you your old job back?
These are all great questions. And again, at first, when this was all hitting everybody and everybody was getting shut down and tossed out of work through no fault of their own, we called on the government to act quickly. And we usually try to hold back on that stuff, but this was unprecedented. Now, we're getting towards the end of July. This has been quite a while, and they need to alter the way that they hand out CERB, as people often call it, the CERB. Anecdotally speaking, I'm seeing exactly the same thing you are. Whenever I have to go to a hotel for work purposes, or when I'm at the grocery store, or especially at restaurants, they're short-staffed, big time. And when I chat casually with the management, they'll say something like, yes, it's almost impossible to get people to come back to work. And I've heard generally from people telling their employers, yeah, I'm going to try to squeak by on $2,000 a month for the summer, but please call me back in September because that's when things get real again. So I need to stress to everybody who is on CERB, if you need it, we do. We understand. That's what it's there for. We're not talking about you. If you don't need it and you can go back to work and you're just not going to, I'm going to really remind you strongly here that you're being taxed on that. So the $2,000 that you're getting, the tax man will take a chunk of that coming up next spring. So the way your employer usually does it when you get your automatic deposit or your check, they take money off the top. So the money you keep is yours. You put that in your bank account or whatever. What the government is giving to you right now, they haven't taken anything off of it yet, but they're going to. So hang on to a portion of that because you're going to have to pay it in your taxes. And going forward, again, if we understand if certain people have very specific requirements and they still need CERB or something like it, we get it. This now needs to shift to something similar to employment insurance. And when you're on EI, any of our listeners will remember, you have to show that you're ready, willing, and able to look for work. You have to sometimes attend a little course on how to look for work, and you have to bring in your CV and show them what you're doing. And you have to also keep track of where you've applied. So there's a lot of monitoring systems that happen over the EI program. We're not seeing any of those checks and balances with CERB, and we need to.
It needs to be switched over and probably become part of the unemployment system.
If they're able to manage it, like actually hand out the money through the employment insurance system, yes. If they aren't for some reason, and who knows, I mean, they can't even pay their employees properly. The Phoenix pay system still doesn't work for many federal employees. If they still need to keep it within this computer system for distribution, that's fine too. But they need to add the same checks and balances that they have on employment insurance over to CERB.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Kris, you're round and about British Columbia now. What do we need more of to help us through this crisis, and what do we need a lot less of?
Well, we need more people willing to get back to work as safely and as quickly as possible. We need more actions like we've seen in Port Coquitlam, for example, where they've said, you know what, you go ahead and put up your patios. Let's help and make sure that you don't need to go through acres and acres of red tape to get her done. And we need less of government interference. So we need to make sure that the government doesn't suddenly lock us down again or tell businesses to shut down again if they don't have to. We need to make sure that they aren't impeding the restart to the economy. And you're right, I drive all around British Columbia usually for my work. I stay very safe. I maintain my social distance and all that good stuff. And I'm hearing time and again from small business owners who are saying we need the floodgates opened as wide as possible. So you need to loosen the restrictions as much as you possibly can to stay safe, but man, we need people coming through the door again. That goes for restaurants, it goes for hotels, it goes for small businesses. So if the government can please proceed as carefully and cautiously as possible with our economy as well as our health, it would be muchly appreciated, because really the economy is who we are. It's how we are able to make our salaries and pay for our housing and pay for our groceries and support our kids. So people can't just say, oh, well, that's just business or that's just the economy. That's how we survive. And so we need to make sure that the government gets that and remembers that.
Now, we should mention Port Coquitlam because they're sending idle city workers out to restaurants to help them build patios. And are you happy with the city of Surrey that's charging people hundreds of dollars to apply for a patio?
That's the exact opposite of what should be happening. So they should be waiving those fees, and they should be accelerating the process. So I think it was in Delta. There was another organization, another city in Metro Vancouver that was saying, put up your patio by default. It's already approved. And if we have a complaint, then we'll look into it. Then we'll make you fill out paperwork. Then we'll come take a see. That's the way it should be. So most people who are reasonable and own a cafe or a restaurant or whatnot will be reasonable when setting up their patio. They won't completely block the sidewalk. They'll make sure that it's safe and accessible, all that great stuff, because they want to keep their workers safe and they want to keep their customers happy. You know, win-win, and they want to be good neighbors. That usually works out for the best. That's the attitude that we should be taking with government. We shouldn't be making business owners jump through hoops at the outset, especially now. They're barely able to struggle back to their feet, and we don't know if they're going to make it. So anything that government can do to knock down those barriers is what they should be doing. So do what Port Coquitlam is doing, do what Delta is doing, don't do what Surrey's doing.
Also, we've heard the BC government is deferring taxes, but they're not canceling or reducing them. At least the last word we heard from Ottawa was they didn't have any plans to increase taxes, at least right now. Taxes, should we be getting a break? And if you owed taxes, say, for that 4 or 6 month period, things are shut down, should those taxes be waived?
They need to really take a look at things like that and see if they can negotiate it with small business groups and with people who are having to owe their taxes. But you bring up a good point on the government, especially the federal government. I need to put a real sharp point on this. Our federal debt is going to hit $1 trillion. That's a 1 with 12 zeros after it within the next 6 months. This government, the federal government, shows no signs of wanting to cut spending, like ever, for anything. They hand out billions of dollars to summer students at the blink of an eye. So we have to ask the question, where are they going to get this money from, and how are they going to pay for it? And we think that's where trial balloons, like a capital gains tax on primary residences, we think that's where those trial balloons come from. Blacklock's reporter broke the story a few days back. They found out that a group linked there with UBC was getting involved with a report with CMHC, and that CMHC was spending $250,000 to participate in this program, this report, and that one of the things they could be looking at was a capital gains tax on primary residence sales. That means the house you're living in right now. Now, of course, the federal government shot it down. They said, no way, we're not going to do this. But we have to remain vigilant. We have to make sure they don't do this, because some of the language coming out of these research groups makes it sound like it's a hole in the budget to not have this tax. So we're being very, very wary.
Should there be some kind of an active task force right now? I know the Resource Works Society has real jobs, real recovery, a task force there asking industry, Indigenous people, anyone really, to come up with ideas on how to use Canada's vast natural resources to get us back on track. Should there be more efforts like that to help the country get going? Because Canada is unique. We have all these resources and a really, really fine-tuned and well-trained workforce.
Yeah, we really do. And so the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we stay in touch with these groups all the time on this side of the fence, so to speak, because we don't think that government should be the solution to everything. In fact, we think government should do very little. And what it does do, it should be very accountable for it. So you're right. Groups like Resource Works, groups like the Fraser Institute, CFIB, and ourselves here at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, you can go to any of our websites, and we have got studies, and we've got open houses, and we've got forums where you can leave your comments and give suggestions on how to get things back on track. I myself have conducted interviews with leaders in some of these different groups, and they've got excellent ideas. Everything from loosening these liquor laws to making sure they have wide open patios, making sure that we cut red tape to businesses, all those sorts of great things. And especially, you just nailed it there, resources. Just to give you one quick example, before all this madness hit us, before we had the COVID-19 pandemic and the business shutdown, what had happened with our resources is, because we don't have the proper pipeline capacity, we did a study. We took the Parliamentary Budget Officer's own numbers. It's a nonpartisan organization. It's an office there in Ottawa. We took their numbers, and between 2013 and 2023, because we do not have proper pipeline capacity in Canada, we lost out on $13 billion just in federal taxes. That's not counting royalties. It's not counting municipal taxes, property taxes, nothing. Just on federal taxes, they lost out $13 billion. Now add that onto the price tag of needlessly buying the Kinder Morgan pipeline, now called the Trans Mountain Pipeline. They were going to build it themselves. Taxpayers didn't need to spend any money on it. But because the feds dropped the ball so many times, the company gave up and walked away and left us with this thing. That again, here we are. I think we're at $25 billion there, if you add those two numbers together. This is the sort of change in thinking we need to see now. They need to smarten up on natural resources if we're ever going to recover from this.
Anything else that we should be keeping our fingers on the pulse of?
I really need to stress that things like that trial balloon that we saw floated a few days ago on capital gains taxes on houses, that's only noticed by keen-eyed reporters and by citizens who care. So no matter how you vote, if you see something that should be flagged, or if you see money being wasted and somebody not being accountable, blow that whistle. Pick up the phone, make a phone call. Call a watchdog like our organization. Call your favorite local investigative journalist. Make that call, or call your local MLA or MP, regardless of who you vote for. If you want accountable government, you have to be that agent of change if you see something that needs to be done. And so we always encourage everybody to be really, really active.
Kris, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for caring so much about BC.
My guest has been Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Her website, taxpayer.com. If you have any questions for Kris or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Find us on Twitter at Talk Digital Net, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.